What is going on, Internet? Eric Van Holt's back again with another e-commerce conversations. I hope all is well on the other side of the Internet. On the other side of the Internet from me, I actually got two people. We got a little three-way going on here. Sean and Francesco. He just goes by Fra, right? Fran.
Francesco.
I'm already starting off the podcast with a little bit of errors, but why don't we go ahead and you guys give a little introduction of what the heck y'all do and who the heck y'all work with.
Cool. Go first.
All right, I'll go first. My name is Sean Larkin. I'm the CEO and founder of Fueled. Fueled is a customer data platform for e-commerce. We help e-commerce brands boost their signal into their advertising and MarTech platforms. We really focus in on how to really kind of optimize and enrich data that you're sending to Meta conversion APIs, other conversion APIs out there. We work with all kinds of really cool brands, Built Basics, Dr. Squatch, Roommates, Public Rec, Oats Overnight. Lots of really great brands. We just help them make sure they have confidence in all their pixels and all the signal they're sending to these different platforms.
I'm Francesco Gatti, CEO and co-founder of OpenSend. At OpenSend, we help brands identify unknown visitors. These could be net new people that are visiting their site for the first time, and they're showing meaningful engagement enough to deserve to be retargeted across multiple channels. Or they could be existing customers that are returning the site from different browsers and devices, and we're able to help companies like Klaviyo or Shopify or other companies in the ecosystem to still be able to identify these customers and know that they are returning visitors versus net new people. And we also have a persona product that helps our customers identify different cohorts based on deep demographic information about their existing customers in order to be able to personalize their approach with them based on who they are and what they've done in the past. And we work with pretty noticeable brands, companies like Oats Overnight, Tire Agent, Alexander Wong, and about 1,000 others. And very excited to be here. Thank you, Eric.
And we
Eric,
all, go ahead.
I was going to say, you're why I'm in e-commerce. I don't think I told you that. So I met you, I was doing Drupal development way back in the day. That was like 15 years ago. And then a couple years after we met, I had a Drupal baby. I had an awesome little kid coming out of the Drupal community. And so I moved to Colorado, sold my Drupal agency, and got into backyard farming. And I swear this relates to you, but I started raising, I took like 2 years off just to be a dad, and I was raising backyard goats. And I remembered all the cool stuff that I'd seen with you doing like men's grooming stuff. And so as I started getting into like making goat milk soap, I was looking at you and I was like, maybe I could like turn this into a cool performance marketing type play, making really cool men's, soap, stuff like that. I tried to get into beard oil, but you guys are just way better than me. But yeah, so that's what got me into e-commerce. Dr. Squatch came out, crushed me. I was like, I'm never going to be able to keep up with these guys. So then I just started getting back into consulting on Shopify after all the stuff I kind of learned trying to do what you were doing. So
yeah, it's at this point, I don't really recommend many people get into men's grooming. It's a pretty tough space. And Dr. Squatch is an unbelievable company. Jack, the founder, was on this podcast a number of years ago after he had success with that first viral YouTube or ad that went out with the blonde-headed guy. So it's been amazing to watch what they built. They sold for like $2 billion recently. And I don't know if he's still involved in the company or if he's, enjoying his the fruits of his labor or not. But
I haven't actually worked with him. We work with their performance team. They're top notch. And their engineering team is incredible. I would love to pick those guys' brains. I mean, I love making soap. I love all of that type of stuff. It's really incredible. But they've been able to kind of really scale it in a way that's incredible.
Now, OpenSend, you were talking about working with Klaviyo. Was that always the case, or did you used to have your own email marketing arm and efforts for that as well?
No, so the way we operate is that we're essentially bolt on into ESPs. So we are partnered with Klaviyo, and we've actually launched into their marketplace a couple of months ago. And so what we're able to do is that we're essentially able to supercharge the Klaviyo account of a customer, right, in order to enable them to reach people that they wouldn't be able to reach otherwise, in order to maximize the return on advertising spend. Because by bringing more people to the site, they're still able to be left with something, right? As well as to be able to squeeze the lemon a little bit more on the existing customers. Because of that re-identification across device, which is becoming more and more useful, considering that the more we go on, the more devices we own, and the more often we change them. Right. So it's much easier to essentially lose the signal.
So, if I'm understanding this correctly, let's say we do advertising on. Let's walk through like what a
Hmm.
typical marketing flow looks like. So I'm advertising on Facebook. I have this beautiful ad. Somebody sees it on their phone as they're doom scrolling, and then they remember it the next morning, and they go to my website, beardbrand.com. How are your tools, like are they able to determine whether or not that's the same user between two different devices? Let's say that user decides not to buy today, they leave. Am I able to understand what their email address might be and to kind of like remarket to them to bring them in as a customer and then
Yep.
eventually convert them through that email?
Yeah, Eric, let me break it down essentially in two use cases, right? So one use case, the first one you mentioned, is the cross-device and cross-browser identification. So let's say that Joe is your customer. He already bought your beard grooming product from you like last Black Friday, right? For Christmas last year, he got gifted a new iPhone, right? And in the first place, he bought the product from you from his older iPhone. Now, this Black Friday, he's coming back to your site again with his new iPhone, and you have no idea that it's him. Or he came to you through a Facebook ad on his cell phone, right? He came to your site, he subscribed to your newsletter because he was intrigued, but he wasn't ready to buy. Now he returns from his desktop when he's at work to conclude the purchase, right? And you would have no idea that it's him. Well, what we're able to do is that we're able to essentially pass you additional user agent information in order to enable you to identify this customer independently from which device is on, considering that we have several devices in our graph per each American consumer, and that's kind of like one use case, right? The other use case that you mentioned about getting emails of people that have visited your site. So let's say that Joe saw an ad for your product on Instagram. Now he's landing on your site. He seems very engaged. He spent 2.5 minutes on your site, have looked at 4 pages, have stopped on a PDP. His depth scroll was 40% on each pages and more. He added to cart and so on. But he ended up not concluding the transaction and just vanish, right? So what we're able to do is that we're able to get their information from our graph. These informations are coming from publishers like Sport Illustrator, Quizlet, Rolling Stones, you name it, right? And then
All
what
opted
we're
in, right?
all
All
opted
opted
in
in for
because
marketing. Yeah.
they essentially signed up for some sort of like freemium product on the content side. It could be reading an article for free instead of paying $1, or getting to a contest, a promotion, whatever it is, right? So then what we're able to do is that when we identify this consumer on our customer site, we're able to push their email into Klaviyo with a variety of informations attached to it, related to their latest active on-site activity, in order to be able to trigger the appropriate abandonment flow, right, related to these customers, which is going to be a checkout abandonment flow, or a cart abandonment flow, or a product abandonment flow, depending on what is the highest level intent of actions that you have taken on the customer side.
So, in that first use case scenario, how are brands utilizing that data or responding differently? Is it just a better understanding of their customer,
Totally.
or
So,
can they?
for example, if you're using the Klaviyo pop-up, right, that pop is not gonna come up, right? Because now Klaviyo know that this is a returning customer, so the experience on the site will be able to be adapted to a returning visitor or returning customer, so versus like treating them as net new, which would be practically wrong, right? But in terms of like the practicality, there is nothing much for you to do other than assign as a bunch of flows and then just let it run. Which is, by the way, it's identical to how Fueled works on the first-party data side, meaning that when those users are identified from the customer database, they are able, and we are able to provide events to our partner ESPs or CDPs and this sort of stuff in order to enable them to take actions.
And we
And
just
then,
wrote I was just going to say, we just wrote an integration so we can also take those hashed email addresses and use them as match data back into Meta. So we're seeing event quality match scores going up by 30, 40, 50%. And much more importantly, we're seeing ROAS improve measurably because we're able to identify that same visitor across those two devices and say, hey, your ad worked with this person, send them more ads.
yeah,
And
you mentioned
and
a
to dummy that down a little bit, just to explain, Eric. So the reason why that's happening, it's because what we're able to do is that we're not just pushing one good email into Meta, for example, but through our graph, we have 6 email addresses, 3 phone number, 2 postal addresses, 5 IPs, 2 devices, and so on. And we're essentially able to pass this data to Sean and to Fueled in order for them to essentially transform it and push it in a specific way through the Metacap integration in order to essentially jack up that score, because now the match rate in Meta or other platforms is definitely going to be higher because they have just more information to target a user.
I want to circle back. You've used a couple acronyms that I want to make sure our listeners are aware of, like ESP,
Yeah, email service platform.
Okay, email service platform. And then, what was it? PD?
CDP, customer
CDP.
data platform.
Okay, customer data platform. Yeah.
We also said CAPI. So a CAPI is a conversion API. So
okay, these acronyms.
Well, let me explain that. So with Meta,
Yeah.
and I think this is a good one for folks to kind of understand going into Black Friday, Cyber Monday in particular. So the reason I think that Fueled exists, and I think in large part a lot of the value from OpenSend is mobile devices in particular are rightfully becoming more and more privacy oriented. So it used to be on the internet with all this advertising stuff, you could just slap a pixel on a site, and then that pixel, like a Facebook pixel, would just track you all across the internet. Over the last 10 years, that's changed a lot. And so nowadays, you can only track somebody on your website. In the case of like Meta, and even further, since iOS 17 came out in like 2020, there's a whole bunch of privacy functionality there that strip out Facebook identifiers, so that Facebook campaign identifiers, So long story short, like it's getting harder and harder for e-commerce brands to be able to identify who's engaging on their site and be able to send them relevant ads, send them relevant emails, and things like that. And so Fueled, as a customer data platform, meaning we focus on helping brands capture their first-party customer data, and OpenSend as this massive first-party, third-party identity graph, we're helping these brands kind of recapture all that signal and send it to Meta. So a lot of this and a lot of kind of what you're going to hear, iOS 26 comes out this in about rolls out in a couple of weeks. It's the newest version of iOS for iPhones. It's going to even kind of cramp signal even further. And so what's happening is brands are starting to move to what are called conversion API integrations. So they're not just leveraging these little pixels, this little JavaScript that they put on their site. They're actually they're collecting the data themselves and sending it to Facebook servers kind of behind the scenes. That's kind of the new way to approach things. And it improves signal because you can, whereas like a little Facebook pixel, that little JavaScript is just sending a tiny bit of data, a little bit of identification, the IP address, the device, and a cookie. By sending all this data server side, OpenSend and Fueled can send a whole lot of rich information about shoppers to help these platforms really do better targeting and better email automation. Does that make sense?
So, let's, kind of walk into the concept of first party, third party, and when third party data becomes first party. So, like, basically, OpenSend helps third party data become first party data because you're
That's
like,
correct.
okay, I know this device visited my website. It looked at these things. I'm going to check with this third party data source. Do we know who that is? And then we get more information. So we're like, okay, well, this is the person's name. This is the person's email. Now I can have that, right? But I'm
Mhm.
not getting access to like a full blown list of data from, all these
Mm.
third party sources, correct?
Just the people that engage with your site.
And I think an important thing on that too, because a lot, when I talk about OpenSend to my customers, there's always questions about, well, what about our customer data? Is it going to go out to other websites? And that does not happen. It's all
That's correct.
completely you are growing your list. Nobody else benefits from your list.
Okay. So, like, as you said earlier, it's these essentially like data acquisition companies online that do quizzes or promos or giveaways or news articles, and they sell that data. So your data is your data, um, it,
That's
and
correct.
you're not adding like that they visited Beard Brand to your database at all.
It's just that we have a one identity graph that it's communicating individually as a one-way road to the different customers, which is the only reason why we're able to work with companies like Procter and Gamble and other very large organizations, because obviously the data for every commerce brand is their pumping heart, right? So that's why it's very important to keep it, isolated from customer to customers, and just being able to add more value with what we're able to go and fish in the sea, and then bring it back to every one of our customers to monetize better their
No,
traffic.
and not everybody does this. I mean, I'm going to give Frost some kudos here. When we chose to partner with OpenSend, we looked at a lot of other people that kind of are in that space, and they're OpenSend, in my mind, and I'm bragging on you, Fra, is by far the most transparent, has the best kind of chain of custody. So you can actually have actual records on where they're buying data, whether it was opted in, things like that. So that brands can have a lot of trust doing this and not worry about either destroying their sender reputation, meaning having their Klaviyo account get always just counted as spam, um, or eroding brand trust by just spamming people with tons of emails who maybe landed on your site and didn't even know they did it. Like that, the fact that like Frost company OpenSend is evaluating the customer's intention means that when you get an email that's generated from OpenSend, it's a good experience for for
And
that shopper.
that's very much the same the same and only reason why we've been able to become partners with companies like Klaviyo, right? It's because we've implemented and by the way, we're the only identity partner in their marketplace, because we're taking very meaningful actions against making this experience not traumatic for the end consumer, right? And the way we've done that, it's by building a lead scoring algorithm in our product that is essentially measuring the level of engagement of every visitor going to the customer site, in order for us to determine if they're engaged enough in order for us to be able to send an email, show an ad, send a postcard, or potentially an SMS if their phone number is already on file, right? So in this way, we're able to provide our customers, and across our network, we're able to see an average open rate of over 50% on new visitors, and a click-through rate between 7 and 10%. That obviously really depends on the creatives and so on in terms of the click-through. But and obviously, I mean, unsubscribe and spam complaint rate well within the recommended threshold from our partner providers.
Are you able to tie in with SMS or phone SMS
On
marketing as
on
well?
the SMS side, we're not able to provide phone numbers per se because it requires a one-to-one opt-in there, right? But what we're able to do is that when a customer is already a customer and have already provided you their phone number when they bought your product last Black Friday, right? When we're able to re-identify them on the new iPhone that they got, this Black Friday, we'll be able to signal that to Klaviyo in order for Klaviyo to send out an SMS.
Now, this is a little bit of a segue, but since you guys are a little bit deep in this, I get politicians texting me all the time, and they're clearly something my wife has done because they're politicians that I don't follow or agree with, and even to the point where they list it as Ann, and I know my wife wouldn't put my phone number in there. So how are they able to do this? Like, what are they doing to get my data and market to me, and then also not allow me to opt out of this marketing at all?
So the thing is that when you consume something for free in the web, it's normally not free, right? And the way you pay it's by putting your informations out there in order for you to be remarketed. So all we're doing is to help those publishers who are producing very engaging content that people are willing to consume but unwilling to pay.
Well, I'm not
Right?
talking about you because I don't think you're doing this kind of stuff, but like how, like clearly the politicians out there,
Mhm.
they send it from a different phone number every time. Like it's very like
Oh, I
shady
see. I see what
stuff.
you mean. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, look,
So,
politics
w-
is above the law.
yeah.
That's why, right? Because as long as in America, the funding for politics is going to be private, right? That's they need to just allow them to do whatever they possibly can in order to inform the population about how good or how different they are, right? So yeah, there is definitely a lot going on in terms of like marketing,
Yeah. I mean, it
political
just seems like
campaigns.
more black hat kind of marketing tactics,
Oh
in
yeah,
my opinion.
because there is no, I mean, there's literally no law in the sense that it's their right to kind of be able to reach everybody and anybody for any reason or no reason.
Aren't they pulling from voter registration files too? Probably.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I mean, I'm not
definitely give access
registered to
to
vote, which
all
is
the
the other
citizens.
thing.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
it's like,
that's yeah.
I don't know. That's just a little rant of mine. But I want to follow up like, this combination of data, you send it back to Facebook as well. So I'll have like better, clearer information on the performance of my
Yes.
Facebook ads.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, these days, kind of the name of the game in Facebook is broad initial targeting, and then as many people as you can touch. And then Facebook has the best algorithm in the world at being able to say who should receive a secondary ad, right? Um, so so it used to be, kind of about 5-10 years ago that you'd really kind of like you'd want to bring your own audiences. You'd want to bring like a really tight audience, and then try to outsmart Meta, try to outsmart your competitors and who you're targeting. These days is about targeting everybody you can, but then as soon as they don't engage, cut them out so that you're not spending money on them. And so by being able to grab a hashed email, a hashed phone number from OpenSend, or the ones that we have on file in our own first party identity graph, we're able to say, hey, this person engaged with this ad. Like here they are, here's who they are. Keep sending them relevant ads. And so Facebook's algorithm kind of tones in on those best customers. So that's why you might see 4 or 5 ads for one brand, but only see one ad for another brand. Cause Facebook's just kind of fishing. You're not into it. They're not going to, the brand's not going to keep spending money on you.
Sweet. When does it make sense for a brand to implement some of these technologies into their marketing efforts?
That's interesting. I think it's slightly different. There's a lot of overlap between us and OpenSend, but slightly different too. So speaking of for our customers, typically if you're spending less than 20 grand a month on advertising or paid advertising in particular, then I think kind of the built-in free Meta integrations and Google Ads integrations for Shopify are probably
Through your
fine.
Shopify app.
Yeah, you just use the free ones. Like we're a premium product. We're twice as expensive as any of our competitors. That's because we, you know, are highly engaged with our customers. We do a lot of proactive auditing, monitoring. We're very engaged in Slack with our customers. Like our job is to build trust so that people don't have to like beat their head into the ground trying to figure this stuff out, you know? So typically I'd say that probably translates to a brand doing over 8 million a year. We have a couple of self-service options that are, you know, in the $200 range that could help brands that are doing, you know, maybe 5 to 10 million, but, you know, um, typically those are going to be brands that have an operator who's done this before and is trying to scale fast, you know? So, because as you know, as you spend more, you start competing against yourself, you start seeing inefficiencies, you know? Um, Similarly, if you want to scale spend really fast, you need really good data, you know? So, we work with a lot of kind of serial entrepreneurs guys at Laundry Sauce, really cool brand, men's, um, laundry care brand. They've rolled out another couple of products. They're very early, but they've done this before. They know what they're doing. They bring us on day one, you know. But you know, most of our brands are probably doing over 20 million in general, where even a tiny little improvement has a massive impact. Frau, what would you say about your customers, your entry point?
Yeah, totally. So for us, it's not so much about the revenues. It's more about the traffic, right? Meaning that somebody could make 20 million bucks a year by selling $10,000 electric bikes, and that wouldn't be great. But jokes aside, so normally it's brands that have more than 30,000 monthly unique visitors. That's when we can, start to get involved, in a sense that for our Connect product, they need enough traffic in order for us to actually give them enough new emails for new people, to make it make sense considering all the filtering we're doing, meaning that our goal is to only give them the quality. So there is definitely a meaningful filtering down there. And on the other side, on the Reconnect side, they need to have enough customers in their pool for us to, be effective at actually reconnecting them with new browsers and new devices. That being said, customers that have, over 100,000 monthly unique visitors, those are the ones that will say the 10x ROI and higher. But I mean,
And
our service starts from $250.
yeah, so let's kind of walk through like a case study. How do customers who don't submit their emails compare in performance to customers who, went to the cart and they put their email address in terms of
Yeah.
like, what do they call that? Browse abandonment or whatever, or
hmm
cart abandonment, I guess, cart abandonment. So browse
Yeah, totally.
abandonment versus cart abandonment. Do you know the performance comparatives typically?
So browser, sorry, just to make sure I get, what is the difference with users that have actually subscribed and users
No, no,
that
no.
we
So
have?
so someone who's gotten to the point where they've put their email address in to place an order, where
Mhm.
we at Beard Brand, we know for sure that's their email address, compared to somebody who's browsed a bunch, maybe added it to the cart, but not to the point where they've put in their email address.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, look, in terms of the performance, is obviously the performance of the people that have not put in the email address is definitely lower. But that being said, over time is not going to be, more than 50 to 60% lower type of thing. Because the thing is that with all the filtering that we do, to give you an example, I mean, a true classic who we have a big case study done that is public and everything. We've been able to collect around 390,000 emails. These people were opening at the 65% open rate. Right, this was in the range of I believe 3-4 months, and the reality is that they have still been able to get a 5x ROI within the 3 months. And then obviously the more you go on, the more this ROI is going to continue to compound, because somebody that was on your site today and didn't buy today doesn't mean that he's not going to buy tomorrow, right? It's just a matter of like pushing them into the remarketing funnel in order to then be able to send them the Halloween offer, the Christmas offer, the Labor Day offer, whatever it is, in order to try to, get them to convert over.
And what do you recommend? Do you have like best practices where you recommend you send 3 emails or 6 emails, and if they don't open any of those, you cut them off, or
Yep.
what is kind of best practices?
Yeah, totally. So again, it really depends from the brand, the average order value, and kind of like what is their overall marketing strategy, right? Because we work with brands that are more on the luxury side and brands that are selling $1 billion in tires a year type of thing. So these have very different approaches. What I would say is that, I mean, we're seeing brands that after, the 10 emails, the 15 emails that have been sent when there are crickets on the other side and there is no engagement at all, to kind of like drop these people, because at the end of the day, it's not going to do any good, right? And even if you do that every, 3 to 6 months, we're seeing that 70 to 80% of the people that we're able to provide to our customers remain engaged over time.
Yeah. The other thing I'd kind of add to that, especially as we're kind of looking at Black Friday, Cyber Monday, is so we see a lot of brands that just kind of, even larger brands who don't really kind of take the time to think through kind of this retargeting abandonment flow email setup, and so going into Black Friday, Cyber Monday, there's just this like pressure that brands feel to just discount everything, and they really leave a lot of money on the table. Tools like OpenSend are really going to help you understand that customer intent. And so you can kind of optimize incrementality by saying, hey, if somebody got to checkout, they're really close. We don't need to give them the same discount that we want to send to somebody who added a product to their cart and then stopped there, So, and there's a handful of great agencies that we work with, and that, OpenSend work with. Brandco comes to mind, New Standard, that really help kind of people kind of build strategy around this, that might be one of my biggest recommendations kind of going into the Black Friday, Cyber Monday, is like, take some time, look at these flows, understand, when you need to give a big discount, but don't give away the farm, The other thing is, if you're just like bombing people with huge discounts, as soon as Black Friday is over, those folks are gone, But if you kind of think a little bit more strategically about these relationships, leverage all the information that like the personas product that OpenSend has now, like leverage that to understand these customers, you can drive really meaningful long-term engagement with them and keep your margins as high as possible.
Where can people follow you, find you, buy your services?
For me, it's opensend.com. And can find me on LinkedIn and, book a call with me, with our team. We'll be happy to, through the product, tell you what we do and see if we can be helpful.
And we're at Fueled, like I just fueled up my car.io. Also on LinkedIn, ranting and raving about pixels and tracking code, things like that. So
we gotta get both of y'all off of LinkedIn and over on X. That's where all the fun is at.
Definitely on X as well. It's just tougher to keep up with X, to be honest.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I have. This has been another e-commerce conversations. Cheers. Keep on growing.
Thank you, Eric.
Awesome. You get what you need there?